Say his name.
Hardel Sherrell.
Say his name.
Hardel Sherrell.
Say his name.
Hardel Sherrell.
It is a historic moment because this is the first case where a medical provider in Minnesota has been charged with an inmate death.
These charges, which are historic, are very important because people who provide medical care to people in jails need to recognize that their obligation is to their patient, not to some for-profit medical organization. Michelle Skroch got charged, and I'm very grateful for that. But there are other people that I believe need to be charged as well. As the paralegal that worked on this case, I looked at many videos, and it was obvious to see him that Hardel was desperately ill. It was obvious to see that he wasn't faking. There's no way in the world. This guy couldn't move his legs, he couldn't move his arms. He had Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a syndrome that causes progressive paralysis. It moves up your legs and up to your upper body and eventually paralyzes your rib cage so that you can no longer breathe. These things were obvious, and you could see them on the video. It is appalling to me that any nurse can walk around him and say, get off the floor, you're faking, even with the vital signs being wildly abnormal, with an abnormal EKG and things like that. They basically would refuse to believe what their eyes were telling them about him, and they put a particular narrative in their head and they stuck with it no matter what. And this to me is appalling. Medical people, be advised, you will pay a price if you neglect your patients.
Hardel was a very amazing young man, and by him being my only child, he and I were best friends. I was my little guy, even though he was almost 6'4", and we did everything together, and he is so missed. I thank God for the work that my attorney did, and Michelle Skroch, all of the activists. There's so many, I can't even name them all, but they have stood in the gap with us. They have gone in the trenches, and they have put boots on the ground year after year after year. So this feels like some small vindication, because as I said, no matter who gets criminally charged and what their sentence may be, it will never compare to the sentence that I got, which was a life sentence. My baby is gone. And there isn't a day that goes by that I am not thinking about him, missing him. And I even thought that maybe, just maybe, things would get a little bit better as the time has gone on. But no, it's actually gotten harder because he's not there.
Hardel's heart was so huge, man. And they took that from us, man.
I just thank God that finally we are starting to see some justice in this case, because it's been long overdue. And my prayer is that she won't be the only one charged, because everyone that was there, anybody that had a part and saw what was going on, they stood by and did absolutely nothing when he begged for his life.
She has 3 counts. The first count is for second-degree manslaughter, and the other 2 counts are for criminal neglect, different variety of criminal neglect. These charges, even for a person with no criminal history, call for a 48-month prison sentence. And we did request charges against everyone who was responsible for taking care of Hardel. Like I said, ultimately it's not in our hands who gets charged. But our understanding is that other charges may be coming in this case.
This is not an isolated situation. We have a serious problem with the lack of proper medical care in the jails in this state. In 2023, we had 22 people die in jails.
No one should be subjected to cruel and preventable suffering simply because they are in the custody of our county jails. Denying medical care is not just neglect, it is abuse. This is exactly why the Hardel Sherrell Act was passed, because Hardel Sherrell died in a Minnesota county jail after being denied medical care, despite repeated cries for help. His death was preventable.
Justice for
Hardel Sherrell.
Justice for
Hardel Sherrell.
Justice for
Hardel